Hello everyone. Man is a social animal. The great Greek philosopher Aristotle has said that. Why he has said that? He said that because man never survive isolately. For his needs and necessity, man has to become a social animal. To fulfill its needs and necessity, man always and this is called as communication. Now, does communication has any relationship with civilization or society? Do. But subconsciously communication process was there, lies with man before establishment of any civilization. Before deciding any within any society or civilization, man used to be there, reside in the forest in a small group. When man was there in a small group, they used to communicate subconsciously. Okay, what sort of means they used to have? They used to have the stone carvings and cave paintings. Those were there 30,000 years before. Okay, and the man used to use those communication process subconsciously. Even before common era, also man used to use those process of communication subconsciously. In the era of 8th century BCE, man used to use pigeons for transmission of letters or messages or information to a distance point. Okay, even during 6th century BC, peoples used to convey the message from one point to other for others. Okay, so the difference between the communication process lies with pigeon and people is that in the communication process of pigeon and people, the letter or the paper that used to have get that means contain that information, they used to be there in the form of symbol or writing text. So difference is there in the case where the man used to convey the message. During that period of time, the man can say anything else which was there written over the piece of paper to the receiver itself. Now, actual process of communication, actual system of communication that came into picture in the 17th century when the first daily newspaper came into picture. Okay, thereafter in the mid 19th century we encounter the communication process of telegraph and telephony. In telegraph and telephony, the written text and voice they were used to send to a further point. Okay, now telegraph is a unidirectional communication system. Okay, and telephony is a bidirectional communication system, but there it used to be they are happening between two persons only. During the early of 20th century, when the broadcast system came into picture, the radio broadcast and television broadcast system came into picture where multiple number of receivers used to receive the signal. Okay. Now, in the mid of 20th century, when the internet came into picture, we encounter various facilities like blogging, instant messaging, and other things. Now, blogging and instant messaging, they are live with YouTube and WhatsApp. Okay. Now, it is the era of social media. We are using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other means for communication. Now, just think this kind of communication means they might have been developed by some person itself. Now, whether we want to be a consumer or user of this communication system, or whether we do require to have certain more concepts so that we can think about developing any communication system. So, depending on that, keeping on that in mind, I have prepared my lecture over the element which is there the under the lecture series of analog and digital communication. The outlines of my presentation is that concept of communication system, classification of communication system, block diagram, and at the end of the presentation, I will share one video with you that will elaborate the whole process in a detailed manner. Now, first slide, that is concept of communication. What exactly a communication? By definition, communication is a process of sharing and exchange of data or information between two entities. Those are situated at a far point. Now, those two entities may be two person, maybe two devices, maybe one person or device. So, in the process of communication, we share, that means we send and receive, we exchange information. Now, those information can be shared in any form, in the form of sound, picture, or text. Okay. Now, second one is what is communication system? As you know, system means interconnection of small circuitries or units. So in communication system, it is the interconnection of telecommunication network, transmission system, repeating stations and various communicating terminal equipments. Okay, so these are the things, those are when they are combined with each other for fulfilling a particular purpose, that forms a communication system. What exactly happens in a communication system? What exactly happens in a communication process itself? In a communication process, as I said in the earlier point, when the communication used to happen between two persons, or in a broadcast communication system, when communication used to happen between multiple number of users, what happened during the process of communication? The message or the information, and that generating point is called as the source of information. So in a communication process, a transmitter or a sender is there who generates a source of who becomes a source of information by its own, or who cannot become who can get the information from the other point itself. Okay, so the sender, after getting information from the other point, from the source itself, it processes the information, and after complete processing, it transmits the signal towards the receiver. Okay, and it transmits the signal through a channel or through a medium. Okay, now after getting the information from the medium which was transmitted by a transmitter, a receiver reprocesses the information. After reprocessing, it reproduces or regenerates the information, because while uh, moving through the communication process, the information changes its shape. So we change the shape, or we change the property, or we change the form of information from one to other as per our requirement. Okay, now during the regeneration process, what happened? The information is returned back to its original form. After getting its original form, it gets displayed or it gets stored for future use. So this is the thing that happen in a communication process. Now the next one is the classification of communication system. As I said, the communication process, in the communication process, users are there, medium is there, and number of users are there. Depending all those means, the communication process can be classified into certain category. In the first category, when a communication system is classified into analog and digital communication, it implies the kind of information that we use. In analog communication system, we use analog signal. That means a continuous signal. Okay, and for example of analog communication is the normal television broadcast. Okay, similarly, a digital communication system is that which uses digital signal for communication. Okay, and the modern example is DTH, direct to home service. So it is a proper example of digital communication system. And the second category is wired and wireless communication system. So a communication system is classified into wired and wireless communication system as per the interface that is used between the transmitter and receiver. That means as per the communicating channel, a communication system is classified into wired and wireless communication system. In wired communication system, the transmitter and receiver, they are connected physically. But in wireless communication system, the interface between the transmitter and receiver is not physical, that is non-physical. In most cases, that is the space or air. Proper example of wired communication system is cable TV. And the wireless communication system is satellite communication system, radar communication system, all the modern communication system. Okay. Then the third category of communication system is one way, two way and multi-way communication system. So this kind of category of communication system carried out depending upon the number of users, okay, and the type of users. In one way communication system, communication always happens in a unidirectional manner. So in that communication system, one and permanently behaves as a receiver. In two-way communication system, the communication carried out between two entities, but one entity never permanently remain as a transmitter and the other entity never permanently remain as a receiver. When one entity behaves as a transmitter, other entity behaves as a receiver. When the receiver behaves as a transmitter, the transmitter has to convert into a receiver or has to behave as a receiver. That is called as a two-way communication system. In a multi-way communication system, the entity number of the entity becomes multiple. That means more than one. One example of one-way communication system is TV and radio broadcast. Okay, so where one transmitting station is there and multiple receiving stations are there. That transmitting station behaves as a transmitter for all the time, and the receiving station, that means we people, those are there watching any kind of broadcast program in our home, we permanently behaves as a receiver. We are there at a receiving end. So television and radio broadcast system, they are called as one-way communication system. In a two-way communication system, mobile communication system, when two people are communicating with each other with the help of mobile device and a smartphone or any uh, your mobile or any walkie-talkie, that is called as a two-way communication system. And in a multi-way communication system, when multiple number of users are there at the transmitting end and at the receiving end. The proper example of that is conferencing, audio and video conferencing, and we are very much familiar with that audio and video conferencing. Let us move to the block. Programs are also there, but as we are there at the beginning or the initial part of the communication, analog and digital communication, we need to know the fundamental of a communication. So this is a simplified block diagram of communication where you can see a source of information, a transmitter, channel, receiver, destination. They are there along with a source of noise and distortion. As I said, a transmitting end or a transmitter sometimes behaves as a source of information, but in many a times transmitter only process the signal after getting the signal or information from a source of information. The source of information that generates the raw form of signal. Okay, but that raw form of signal is non-transferable, or sometimes it is not feasible or not helpful for processing. Okay, because before transmitting the signal, we have to include certain information, certain security parameters to those information as far as modern communication system is considered. Okay, so signal has to or information has to process before transmitting toward a far end, and that processing carried out within the transmitter. So transmitter, what it does, it converts a raw form of signal which is non-transferable to a transferable signal which can flow through the channel. I will go to that. Which kind of transferable signal that a transmitter require, that depends upon the kind of or the type of channel itself. Now the transmitter, while converting it, not only convert the non-transferable form of signal to those process: amplification, modulation, conversion of signal from analog to digital, mixing, multiplication, all those kind of processes are there. And those processes, for those processes, transmitter contains certain specified units or circuitry within that. come in means know those things when we'll move to the subsequent lecture classes. So overall, the function of transmitter is to convert the non-transferable signal to transferable signal and to process the signal as per the requirement. Now when the transmitter converts a non-transferable signal to transferable signal, that signal transmits through the medium towards the receiver. It propagates towards the medium. It radiates towards the medium. Two terms I have just used, propagation and radiation. The propagation of signal is related with or lies with physical kind of medium, and the radiation of signal is lies with non-physical medium. So in both the case, it means that the movement of signal from transmitter to receiver. But if we come to the minute means terminology, if the channel is a physical one, that means if any optical fiber or coaxial cable, within those medium, the signal they propagates in various form. In optical fiber communication system, through the optical fiber, the signal propagates in the form of light, and in coaxial cable, that propagates in the form of electrical and electronic signal. Okay, but in non-physical communication system, in non-physical channel, in space, the signal that transmits and that transmitting process or the transmission is termed as radiation. Okay, and it radiates in the form of electromagnetic wave, in the form of a radio wave. Understood? So the channel is the interface between transmitter and receiver, which carries the information within it. Okay, now I will come to the noise, source of noise and distortion after that, after certain time. Now when the receiver receives the signal, it receives the signal in the which is in transferable form, which is in the form which is other than the original form. Okay, now after receiving the signal, the receiver reprocesses the signal. And what are the kind of process that we generally encounters? That is your amplification, filterization, decoding, deconversion means conversion from digital to analog, okay, demodulation, all those kind of process, those are happening within the receiver. And similar to that of transmitter, receiver also contains different units or segments responsible for those processes. Okay, now receiver, what it does the reverse process of transmitter, that it converts a transferable form of signal to non-transferable form. That means it converts the signal into its original form. Okay, now when a signal is once converted into its original form, it moves to the destination where it can immediately reproduce for the user, or where it can be stored for the user for future use. Now let us move to the source of noise and distortion. As I said, channel that carries the signal from transmitter to receiver. Okay, now when it carries the signal from transmitter to receiver, it may encounter with any other unwanted signal. Those other unwanted signal may be generated from any other point. Okay, source of that unwanted signal, and those unwanted signal are called as noise or distortion. Inclusion or mixing of those unwanted signal that hampers the power and that hampers the content of the signal. That means it may sometimes means modify the information. So the receiver sometimes may not get the proper information. Okay, so in communication system, this noise and distortion they have to eliminate if they are there, or we have to make any provision to reduce the intermixing of noise and distortion. Okay, and intermixing of noise or distortion, noise and distortion, they are very much means what you may say effective in wireless communication system. In wireless communication system, signals while transmitting through the channel that become exposed to the outer world. But in physical communication system, wired communication system, signal is there lies or confined between a physical medium. Okay, so in that case, intermixing of external noise becomes difficult. But in wireless communication system, intermixing of external noise or distortion becomes easier. So that is the main aspects, in wireless communication system, main concern you may say. Okay, so that noise and distortion they have to be eliminated if they are mixed, or we have to make certain arrangement to prevent addition of those noise and distortion. Whatever I have told you just about the communication system, that can be easily understood if we follow this video. I have made a video, you just watch this one, you will about this communication system.
Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. In order to drink a glass of water, all you need to do is take a glass, fill it with water, and drink it. But are you aware that this water undergoes a long treatment process before reaching the taps in your homes? Similar to this, it is ironical how we don't realize a simple hello over a communication line undergoes a series of process in order to be received by the receiver. This entire process of sending, processing, and receiving of information forms a communication system. In today's video, we'll be learning about the different elements involved in this process. The first element in our communication system is the information. Without information, there will be nothing to be processed and sent. Information can be an audio signal, video signal, images, or words. If you're talking in your normal tone, then your voice will reach up to a distance of 20 meters. However, if you scream, it might reach a distance of 100 meters. But maybe this still won't be enough for the person at the other end to hear you clearly from a much larger distance. In order that your information is received by a person at the other end clearly, in a communication system, we use a transducer. A transducer is a device that converts any form of physical energy into electrical energy. The input transducer converts the information into electrical energy for further transmission from the transmitter. The sound signal, after being converted into an electrical signal, goes into the transmitter. At the transmitter, the analog signal is converted into a digital signal. It is encoded, modulated, and then amplified. These processes are needed to increase the signal strength so that the signal can be sent over long distances. We will learn more about this in our upcoming videos. Now that the message is converted into an electrical signal and its strength is increased, it is passed into a channel. Channel is a medium through which information is passed from the transmitter to the receiver. The channel can be wired or wireless. Wired channels include telephone lines, coaxial cables, and fiber optic cables. Wireless channels include air, water, and vacuum. When the information is passed to a channel, unwanted signals interfere with the channel. This is known as noise and degrades the information quality. From the receiver end, all the process that the information has undergone will be reversed to extract the original information. At the receiver, the information is passed into a noise filter, then to a digital to analog converter. After this, the signal is demodulated and finally it is amplified to compensate for any losses which might have occurred over the channel. From the receiver, the information is passed to an output transducer. Opposite to the input transducer, the output transducer converts the electrical energy into its original form. The signal is finally received at the destination. If we look at the entire process at a glance, the information from the source is passed to a transducer that converts the information to electrical signals. From here, the electrical signals are passed into a transmitter where it undergoes analog to digital conversion, modulation, and amplification. The signal is then sent over a channel. From here, the information is received at the receiver where it is converted from digital to analog signal, demodulated, and then amplified. Finally, at the output transducer, the electrical signal is converted back to its original form and received at the destination. Well, that's all about the elements of the communication system. We will learn more about them in our upcoming videos. Until then, bye.
Okay, I think with this presentation, you have understood all the initial and introductory part of communication system. I have just shared you the elements of communication system and the communication process, what exactly happening in the communication process. So this is the content of first lecture. We'll see you in the second lecture. Please do comment whatever you have thought, whatever you have understood. If you have any doubt, then you please do comment. Thank you.